This was a book that made me angry, made me curious, made me like call bullshit on what she was saying. And then felt like a train wreck that you couldn't stop watching. Wow, just wow is really my first response to that book.
What's up, ladies? We had fun at dinner the other night, huh?
Yeah, it was really fun.
It was fun. Yeah.
I already asked her, did you try on your birthday present?
I did.
Do you like it?
I do like it. Yes.
It's going to look so good.
You know what
on
I didn't try on though, which I don't know that I'll ever try on, is the belt that goes with it because it's never going to be in the right spot. But I didn't. So
I didn't try on the belt either.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah. I was thinking, oh, did it come with the belt? And now I remember it is. Yeah, it's in the bag still.
Belt is optional.
Yeah.
It's
never going to work for me.
No.
So like the way whatever. So, which is fine, but
totally.
I don't think it needs a belt.
I don't think it needs a belt either.
Yeah.
She wore it as like a jacket.
Yeah.
And the minute I saw her on her, I was like, wow, that is so nice. I loved it.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, it's super cute.
Thank you.
As a jacket, yeah, it is really cute.
I bet it looks great on both of you.
Yeah, and I'm thinking it look really cute too, like with the dress, like with a little slip dress or something like buttoned up and then just like worn over.
It's a good idea. I like that.
We shall see.
You could wear it over a bathing suit with some high heel flip-flops.
Candies.
Exactly. I had this, when I lived in New York City, I was trying to find some friends. And I don't even remember how I met these two women. They were my age. I think somehow I had been set up on a blind date with like a stockbroker. And I didn't really want to go, but I went with him anyway. And it seems like we went to a bar and I met these two girls who were going to the Hamptons that weekend and invited me. And I was like, okay, no idea what the Hamptons was. Not a clue. And I showed up like a country bumpkin. And I remember one of the girls came out in a really glamorous kind of one piece with a long flowy thing like what I gave you and heels to go to the pool. And I was like, where am I? What have I gotten myself? I'm here for the weekend? Oh, I am so screwed. And I had no money to go into the Hamptons and buy any kind of clothes. I just had to like deal. And I remember feeling like the biggest fish out of water. And I don't think I talked much. And I wish I remembered her or her name. She was lovely, but definitely looked like she was out of vogue. But lovely person. She was so great. Her friend, I remember being a little snooty, but she was great. And I wish I knew who she was. Because after that, I think I hid from her because I was like, I definitely do not belong in this group. I don't know what to talk to you about. I'm so sorry. I just disappeared from her, but she was really great. Do you ever have memories of things like that? Or is it just me where you had someone who liked you and you go, whoa, I don't know what to do with this person? Do you have any experiences like that?
Yeah, actually.
I have several. Yeah. Tell me about them.
Now that I think about it, yeah.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of relationships that I just sort of like mentally took myself out of thinking like, oh, well, they're just being nice to me because of XYZ or whatever. And not thinking like, then like in retrospect, oh no, I think we just really got along.
Yeah.
Why didn't I follow up on that?
Yeah. Have you ever followed up on those relationships?
For the most part, it's like what you're talking about, like when I was so young that, I mean, this was before the problem with no social media when we were young is that then you're not connected to those people. So I don't even remember last names.
Right. No way to find them.
Yeah. Like there was this girl, Sarah, who lived in my building who we went out for coffee once and was like, oh, she's so nice. And I thought of her as younger than me. She was probably like 3 years younger than me. But like at the time it seemed like, oh wow, she's so young. And yeah. And I thought she was just like being that, I don't know. I thought she felt bad for me or something. I don't know why she would have felt bad for me either, but yeah, I wouldn't even know her last name.
How about you?
You have like weird like perceptions at certain times in your life, right? Like where you're like, why would I think that she would feel sorry for me? And yet that's exactly how you feel. Yeah. I mean, I'm terrible. I'm so terrible. I think no one is interested or likes me. So if there's any distance, I'm like, oh yeah, forget it. It was never meant to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm terrible with that.
Why do we do that to ourselves?
Yeah,
I wonder. You know, I say this, we have a friend named Sandy who I think really believes, she believes everybody wants to be her friend.
Mm-hmm.
She does not, and everybody does. Like, just like everybody would want to be our friends, but I don't have, she collects friends and keeps friends for 100 years. And I really admire that quality. I think at times in my life, I've been like, well, I don't know. I've moved through friends differently than she has. And yeah, that girl in the high heel flip-flops at the pool is definitely one of those moments where you look back and go, wouldn't it have been interesting to have kept her as a friend? How would I have grown as a person if I had stayed in that uncomfortable place of being this fish out of water and this vogue type of, she was clearly happy I was there. She invited me to come and then kept me included in the whole thing. I was the problem.
And she probably loved your authenticity, that you were coming to the Hamptons just as you and not like caught up in the whole Vogue Hamptons thing. Yeah, I know. Perceptions, and especially perceptions when you're young.
When you're young. Yeah. So lesson for young people, right? Maybe stop a moment and think about it in a different way. I don't know. Or maybe keep going and doing exactly what we did, and then you learn from it. Because I know now, I just went to a party a couple weeks ago where I was completely a fish out of water. Like completely a fish out of water. And I actually liked that. Where I was like, I like that I'm the only person here that's not in this realm of achievement, right? I'm just a regular person hanging out with all these super high achieving, not that I'm not a high achieving person, but I'm not highly recognized as a high achieving person like this group was. And I just was very much a fish out of water. And I just kind of watched myself in the group and then watched the group react to me in a kind of not a detached way, but in a curious way, instead of reacting to it emotionally and being like, oh my God, they don't like me or I'm stupid, which is what I would have done in my 20s. This time I was just like, isn't this interesting? This is really interesting how different I am now. I wasn't thinking about the girl in the high heel flip-flops, but from that girl then.
Because your approach now is curiosity and
then it was terror.
Yeah. And also just younger people are more self-focused.
You know, you have a different perception of yourself.
Yeah.
And of groups and whatnot. You know what I mean? Like you're a very different person than you were in your 20s.
We all were.
Right? So we have a little more objectivity when we're placed in those situations where we probably did not have in our 20s.
But why do you still feel that way, Cathy?
Oh my God, yeah.
Why?
But I don't know.
You're one of the best people.
I don't know.
You're funny.
It's a thing.
Just get a couple rosés in you and you are downtown. It's amazing. But why do you think you feel that way?
I don't know. Like, there's a lack of self-confidence. And I don't know, we can unpack that until
we can. This is an intervention.
20 years, right? But yeah, I think that's what it is. Like, I don't have the value to offer.
You're crazy.
Which is stupid. And intellectually, I know that's stupid. And I've had enough people in my life to know that that's not true. And yet, I still feel that way.
Well, it's not causing you enough pain to change it, I guess. Because when something gives you enough trouble, you'll make a change.
Yeah, because Cathy has a lot of friends. So it's not
Cathy does have a lot of friends.
It's not like
I've lost a lot that I shouldn't have lost. Do you know what I mean?
Like who? Name names. I'm just kidding.
No, but my closest friend in college, we're not in contact anymore. She's the loveliest human ever. Zero reason for us not to be in contact.
Why not?
Our paths just went different ways just because that's the way life is. Yeah. Different coasts, whatever. No reason.
Are you completely
and
out of contact?
Every time I'm like, oh, I should reach out. I'm like, oh, I can't do that. That would be
why?
I would never. Oh. Do you know what I mean? Isn't that awful?
But yes.
Yeah,
you
literally
have to
for like
that,
10
Cathy.
years, I've been like, I should reach out.
You should.
But Cathy,
it's ridiculous.
Think about how great you would feel. Imagine if she reached out and called you or sent you a Facebook message or
What's
whatever.
Her name?
Like how thrilling that would be.
My best friend Becky, who I know you know about, my best friend Becky. I hadn't talked to Becky since 9th grade. And then when Facebook got big, I found her on Facebook, and then we chatted on Facebook and exchanged phone number. This was a long time ago, maybe 25 years ago. And at that point, I hadn't seen her, talk to her in probably 15 years, something like 14 years. And we talked like we had never not talked. And then we didn't talk again until about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So we went these long gaps. We got in touch, and at that time, she had real small kids. I had no kids. I was hustling, trying to be a writer. She had 2 real small kids and was teaching school. Didn't have time. She's in Georgia. I'm here. Her kids go off. She's an empty nest. That's when she got back in touch with me. Well, I still have kids and teenagers. So, but she sent me this bracelet just this past week. This bracelet is Morse code for best friends. Isn't that so sweet? She sent it to me for my birthday. She remembers my birthday. Wow. I remember her birthday. And it's just like, that's so cool.
That's amazing.
And it's, I wasn't not thinking about her ever. I lost touch with her till Facebook. And then lives went apart and then came back. And it's just one of those really cool things. I'm so glad I reached out to her on Facebook. And then I'm so glad she reached back out to me. And I don't talk to her all the time, but I guarantee you, well, she texted me when the weather was coming to Georgia to see if my family was okay. She's in Georgia. You need anything? Need me to do anything for your family? I may not hear from her again for a while. And the reverse is true. But it's so nice to know she's there.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Wife of the Party is sponsored by Pretty Litter. We all know cats are picky. I am too, especially when it comes to my cat. We've gone through a ton of cat litter over the years, and the best for us by far is Pretty Litter, and here's why. Pretty Litter's non-clumping formula traps odor and moisture. It's ultra-absorbent, it's lightweight, low dust, and 1 6-pound bag works for up to a month. And this really gives me peace of mind. Pretty Litter changes color to indicate early signs of potential illness in my cat, like urinary tract infections, kidney issues, and more. And if that wasn't enough, Pretty Litter ships free right to my door. I never run out. I don't have huge kitty litter bags taking up space. And even better, I don't have to lug those huge tubs from a store to my car and into my house. I have a very picky cat. I mean a very picky cat at home. Her name is Frankie. And she only likes particular kinds of litter. It's been really hard for me to find the litter that she likes. But she loves Pretty Litter. And it makes my life so much easier because it just shows up on my doorstep. And I always have it. I'm never out. Pretty Litter's amazing. You have to try it. Go to prettylitter.com/wife to save 20% on your first order and get a free cat toy. That's prettylitter.com/wife to save 20% on your first order and get a free cat toy. prettylitter.com/wife. Terms and conditions apply. See site for details. Wife of the Party is sponsored by AquaTrue. I am always looking for ways to make drinking more water easier so I don't have to think about it. That's why you've got to check out AquaTrue. AquaTrue purifiers use a 4-stage reverse osmosis purification process, and their countertop purifiers work with no installation or plumbing. It removes 15 times more contaminants than ordinary pitcher filters. And they have water purifiers to fit every type of home, from installation-free countertop purifiers to higher capacity under sink options. They even have a Wi-Fi connected purifier and mineral boost options. Its proprietary purification technology is independently tested and certified to NSF standards to remove over 80 of the most harmful contaminants, including chlorine, fluoride, arsenic, PFAS, known as forever chemicals, nitrate, and many more. It's the same technology used by all the major bottled water brands, but now it's available for your home and without the plastic waste. I love my AquaTrue because it sits on my counter, and every time I walk by it, I'm mindful of how much water I'm drinking. It makes drinking water so much easier. AquaTrue comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee and even makes a great gift. Today, my listeners receive 20% off any AquaTrue purifier. Just go to aquatrue.com, that's AQUATRU.com, and enter code WIFE at checkout. That's 20% off any AquaTrue water purifier when you go to aquatrue.com and use code WIFE.
This summer, I was visiting my parents, and this was coincidentally, I was visiting my parents. But somebody who, this guy Vic and I were very close friends in middle school and high school. And then somehow I graduated a year early. And so I think we didn't graduate at the same time. And I don't really know. I don't really remember why we fell out of touch. But again, it was easier to fall out of touch back then because there was no social media. And, if you don't... anyhow, we fell out of touch. I heard through the grapevine that he went to med school and he's an orthopedic surgeon and got married and has adorable kids. And I think he just posted, a picture on Facebook. And but we weren't in contact. And he sent me a Facebook message this summer. He and his wife had been visiting his mom, who lives 2 streets over from my parents. And we just missed each other. He had just come home from this trip and I had just landed to see my parents when he messaged me this picture of the 2 of us at 8th grade graduation. And it was so adorable. And he said, I don't know, if you check these messages or I don't, look at these 2 young kids. And I was so thrilled because we were such good friends and I never really understood why we weren't friends anymore. And it just sort of, we just messaged like up a storm, and
That's
just
so
totally
cool.
caught up on each other's lives. And it was so so Cathy, to be on to be the recipient of that sort of energy was just and he said to me I thought it might be weird sending this 8th grade picture to you, but my wife found it in an old photo album and I just thought of you. And he's like, I'm not really in touch with anybody in from high school or middle school. And I was like, oh my God, this is all I ever wanted. I live for this stuff.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing to hear from somebody. My 20th, maybe, high school graduation, my 1st grade crush, Casey Teal, he reached out to me and said, hey, we have a reunion. Are you coming? And I was like, oh, Casey reached out to me. I was in love with him in 1st grade, not in high school, but in 1st grade, I was like, oh, he's my guy. And when he reached out to me, he is the reason I came to my high school reunion because he reached out and said, hey, are you coming? And I was like, well, if you ask, yeah, I'll be there. His dad and my dad were best friends. Growing up, his dad married me and Bert. Wow. He's our preacher. But yeah, you should totally reach out. What's the worst she could say?
Yeah, nothing.
You're an asshole. And she can't say that because you're not.
Well, I guess that's true.
You're not. No,
she could say nothing, which is right, which is exactly where we're at now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
the hard part for me right now,
I'm also terrible with social media. I don't use it. That's the other
you
problem.
have a Facebook page, don't you?
Yeah.
Our age group functions more on Facebook, I think, as a broad statement. Obviously, my mother-in-law is all on Instagram. She's not, she's obviously super savvy for her age group. But not everybody our age group cares anything about Instagram or TikTok or any of that. But almost everybody our age group is on Facebook. So if you look for someone there, but this is something I've been thinking about a lot now that I'm 3 weeks into empty nesting. I'm such a pro here at being an empty nester.
Tell us, wise old
some
one.
of the things that are coming up for me right now are who are my friends now? Who do I want my friends to be in the future? And why have I left friends behind? Because really, you have these children, you grow them, you raise them, and then you toss them out of the nest like you're supposed to. But this through line of you as self, you as a person, is through all of that. So I have all of these friends that were connected through my children, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of those people have kind of it's quieted a lot. And now you get to kind of reevaluate and choose who you want to be in your life. But I often ask myself, where are the people from before I had kids? Because my focus was so on kids. Where are all the people that were here before the kids? Some of them I'm in touch with. Some of them I'm absolutely not. And are there some of them I would like to spend more time with? Because now's the time to ask those questions, right? Because now is when we start traveling with people you want to travel with. And, we went to the beach house this weekend and a lot of it was by ourselves. And I was like, that's great. However, I spend quite a lot of time with Bert Kreischer, just the two of us. So wouldn't it be nice to be 4? You and Stephen came up once, a couple like last month, and we rode bikes and went to a brewery and drank too much beer. And, that was fun. That's what you have to start kind of building and planning. I think that's how you stave off boredom and loneliness, right? And depression. And because I can see, one of the things I think I've done well in life is to troubleshoot the future, not predetermine the future as what will be bad, but to troubleshoot what could make the future bad. And to me, the troubleshooting the future for now that we're empty nesters is not building valuable friendships so that you're not reliant just on the person in the recliner next to you to watch TV every day. So if you don't do that, and also finding a hobby that gets you, keeps you active and keeps you social. So like golf is a social hobby. I have no interest in playing golf. However, I am interested in staying active and being social. So maybe I'll take golf lessons so that I can be active and social. What do you think about that?
Yeah, being proactive is always better, right? Like you have no idea what's coming in the future, but you do know some things that are going to happen one way or the other, right? There's a lot we can't predict, but if you have a social support system in any stage of your life, you're going to be better off than not having one.
Yes.
Right? So you have to cultivate
active
that.
And to do it today. Right. You start it today. You don't start it, when I'm actually lonely. Well, when you're actually lonely, you're kind of pathetic. And no one wants to be your friend if you're pathetic.
Then it's so much harder, too. Yeah. Like, it's harder to take that first step, right? When you're already feeling
pathetic.
Badly.
Well, I love that Cathy has like an actual granular challenge ahead of her.
I was like, wait, are you calling me out right now?
I am. You clearly have to reach out to... You have to. She has to, right?
Today? What is happening?
This is very Cathy has an actual granular challenge now.
Okay, I am a nerd. You have already identified me as the nerd of the group. Thank you, LeeAnn.
That wasn't nerd. That was maybe the mom / psychologist /
over here.
The parole officer.
Or the nerd.
Maybe even parole officer.
Sure,
maybe.
Sure, fair enough. But she clearly needs to, right?
Clearly. Kirsten, she needs to. Kirsten, Cathy should be reaching out. Kirsten, don't you agree? Yes. Is there someone in your life you should do that to? Not to.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Jeez. I thought you knew who it was. I was like, really? Who is she?
I don't know.
Your dude did it for you, Van.
Yeah.
Vance. Vic. Same thing. Vic, he did it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you? You already had Casey reaching out across the miles.
Becky? Who's Casey? Who?
The reunion dude.
Oh, Casey Teal. Oh, that was years ago. Casey. I was like, who's Casey? I have a menopausal brain, okay?
You know what? This is like a window into the podcast in 15 years.
I love it.
Or maybe 15 minutes.
This is the way this is the way I wanted my podcast to be. It's just hilarious. It's just talking.
What?
Who? I don't know anybody named Casey. I just spent 15 minutes talking about Casey Teal. I carried his first grade picture with me for way too long.
Aww.
Like, not long enough, apparently.
I forgot we were talking about Casey. I don't know if there's anybody I need to reach out to. That's a really good question. I know I did reach out to somebody. I don't know. That's a really good question. I'll have to think about that.
I mean, some of them aren't as dramatic as not seeing someone in so long. Like somebody that I can think about is my cousin Carrie, who is like the best person in the world. She's just so nice and smart and fun and funny. And she's like a year older than me. So whenever we'd get together, and she was like from out west and I was from back east. And when we'd go see all the cousins, she was like my closest cousin. And we like fell out of touch over the years just because like she has different aged kids. Like her kids have both graduated from college now, and lived far away from each other, like just jobs, like all the reasons that you fall out of touch. And but like then we'd see each other at a family event and just pick up, like hit the ground running like you and Becky.
Yeah.
And she listened to the podcast at one point and reached out to me. And so we struck up. And so it's so stupid. Like I am on Instagram and I don't think to like, oh, I could send her a message. Like I see the pictures of her kids and her dogs. Like I could send her a message. Well, she sent me a message. And so, but she's someone who like we sort of fall out of touch. So I need to keep that going more because I just love Carrie. She's so much fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll have to think about it. You know, something I have started doing, I've been complaining to myself that I don't talk to my dad enough because I always get my day going and then I'll call my dad and catch him or not. And then when my day's over, he's like, it's
His
late.
day's way over. Yeah.
So I started calling him. I get up, I give myself like an hour between when I wake up and when I go work out to like make coffee and feed the dogs and do whatever. But I started calling him while I'm making coffee and feeding the dogs. And it's been the best. So I've been able to call him more often. And I just started thinking to myself, like, I'm still really close to his second wife, Jan, but I haven't actually had a phone conversation with her. We text back and forth a lot, but I would love to hear her voice. And I was like, you know what? I'm just maybe going to make that kind of standard. Like 2 of those 3 mornings that I go work out, I'm going to call somebody that I need to call and talk to and just tell them I have half an hour. Let's chat for half an hour because, you know, my dad could talk to me for 2 hours, but I can't talk that long. But to not call him at all because I can't talk that long is not the answer. You know, the answer is to call and go, I have half an hour. And when the half hour's up, you're up. But then at least I've felt contact. I think the problem with social media is that we stopped, and texting, is that we stopped calling people, right?
Yeah.
And for someone like Cathy Kirsten, who isn't on social media, it's even more difficult for her because no one is just
people
calling
like
each
that.
other.
It's
You know, these
tough.
kind of people, they just live in a hole. We just throw some kibble at her every once in a while and she makes it happen.
True.
But I don't know. I was like, that brings me so much joy to when I finally do call Jan and catch up with her. I'm so happy to have talked to her. And she's always there. She's never going anywhere. But, you know, I feel like if I can't give her my full focus, why I'm not going to call her. And, you know, I don't, you know, it's just stupid stuff you get in your head. You go, well, I can't clear the decks to talk to her. I don't have to clear
I'm the
decks.
worst for that. I am literally the worst for calling people because in my head, I'll be like, oh, well, their work day is just getting started. I don't want to interrupt them. And, oh, well, I don't really know what time they take a lunch. And, well, it's dinner time. And dinner time could be like from 5 till like 8. And then like, well, they're probably getting the kids to bed, even if their kids are like teenagers.
Yeah.
But really, are we getting them to bed like anymore? And then like, well, it's after 9 and I don't know if anyone wants a phone call after 9. And then, like, I could do this to myself forever. Like, seriously, throw something at me. I'll find a reason why it's an inappropriate time to call.
Yes, right?
But the thing is, then, and you know, my other side is like going, okay, well, they are adults. They are allowed to have their own boundaries. They do not have to pick up the phone. Like,
Yeah.
there's a voicemail.
Yeah.
Sigh. Well, if Cathy reaches out to her friend, then maybe I could pick up the phone. Maybe.
What do you mean, maybe? That's unfair. Miss police officer.
I think it's parole officer.
Parole
Yeah.
officer, sorry.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's get really granular on it, shall we, lady? I'm
Yes.
just kidding. Yeah, I don't know. It's just an interesting time in life to think about friendship and to reflect on who meant something to you that you maybe missed. Some missed opportunities. The Vogue lady in the high heel flip-flops, I often think was a missed opportunity. As someone, as I watch Sandy go back into different pockets of her life where she's kept people that she's connected with. And I find that really admirable. And I wish I had that for myself. I wouldn't say I'm jealous of her, but I wish I had done that for myself. I wish I'd given myself the opportunity or the value to say I'm valuable enough that they want to hold on to me. I think I always felt like, well, I have no value now. And it's really a bummer. It's kind of a shame.
I had kind of a cool thing happen recently with somebody I went to theater school for 2 years in New York. And for the people that I was friends with there, I always kind of felt like,
yep.
Who could that
Hi,
be?
babe. Oh, what's this?
I brought something for everyone to try.
What is it?
I'm not going to tell you. I want you to try it.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay.
on a tray and everything.
I know.
thank you.
Can I smell it?
Is it iced
You wanna
coffee?
smell it?
No, I would just,
It's carbonated.
it's carbonated. It's
I can't-
non-alcoholic, and it's diet.
Don't smell.
No, just try it.
okay.
Tell me what you think it is.
Okay.
Root beer?
Moxie.
It's pretty good. I don't like root beer, but it's pretty good.
I love root beer. It's like the only soda I drink.
What do you think it is, Kathy? I mean, Kirsten.
I don't know.
It's very
not that
root beer
granular.
esque.
It's got a root beer hint.
Uh-huh.
I think you're tasting is the vanilla.
Cream soda?
No, close.
No.
Oreo. Coke.
Oh!
No.
Oreo Coca-Cola.
What? No.
Oreo
Get out.
Coca-Cola.
No.
And it's diet?
Diet Oreo Coca-Cola.
I hope you bought a lot.
I can go buy more.
It
I
was-
bought 4. I bought from the girls downstairs, and then I wanted you guys to try it.
Does taste a little
Okay,
chemically.
I kind of get it,
Yeah.
but I would never have picked that out.
No.
No, not at all.
No.
It does taste like Moxie.
How did you know Oreo? Have you been watching commercials?
No, it was a clue. He gave us a clue, a cookie. And then I just thought Oreo is sort of, it's like Oreo
universal cookie.
Skittles or Oreo like
Yeah.
Sour Patch Kids. They're doing all sorts of mashups.
Oreo Sour Patch Kids?
Yeah, there's like a
I
something
saw
like that.
Wait, I didn't know
Oreo
Coke was
Nerds
doing
or-
like a.
Yeah, I just thought it would be a fun podcast moment for you guys to try.
Thank you.
We do Oreo Coke Zero.
Okay.
It's
Oh,
0
it's a
calories.
Coke Zero.
Yeah.
Oh, like the cherry Coke Zero.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
Actually.
It's not bad at all. It's really a nice
Take that
treat.
downstairs with you.
And I'm gonna leave it here.
No.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Wow.
babe.
Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Wait,
To go
nice.
with my full octane Coke I have here. I'm double Coke. Okay. Let's talk
Nice.
about this book. 'Cause we got a little off.
That's right.
But I liked our conversation. Okay, the book was Sociopath. What'd you think about this book? I read it a couple weeks ago, so I hope I remember it as well as I hope I
I
do.
listened to the audiobook,
I did too.
so I don't have like the actual book to remember when certain things happened or whatever. But I mean, wow, just wow is really my first response to that book. Like,
Wow meaning it was good. Wow meaning that's insane.
wow,
Wow meaning
it was like all the things. Like I haven't read a book that made me feel a lot in a long time, right? This was a book that made me angry, made me curious, made me like call bullshit on what she was saying. And then it felt like a train wreck that you couldn't stop watching. Like it was really, I was like, okay, that's something.
wow.
Oh.
Yeah. That was my response was wow.
Okay.
Okay.
What was your response?
I thought it was great. I thought it was really well written. I thought it was fascinating. I feel like I learned a lot, although I still couldn't, towards the end of it, I told somebody that I was reading Sociopath and I still couldn't really define what a sociopath was. Not that she doesn't, she brings it up a lot of times, but again, like not looking at the page, like listening to it, I didn't retain exactly all of the characteristics, but I thought it was fascinating, really interesting. It reads like a novel. And
Yeah, it's a memoir, but it is written sort of in novel form. I think it was very easy to read.
What did you think?
I thought she was a really good writer. Here's what I think. I really liked it. I couldn't put it down. I read it straight through. I was fascinated by her take on us being sociopath because it was partly clinical and partly from her experience. I love turning something on its ear to question it, right? To question our beliefs, to undig our unconscious bias, to kind of say, but is the way we've been thinking about it for the past X number of years, all of it, or the right way, or the wrong way? Maybe the answer is yes, we're exactly right. But I loved that she questioned it, that she said, I had a great family and I was having these bad feelings and thoughts. And how she described the building up of pressure and how bad behavior relieved the pressure was so clear to me. My issues with it is, for people that I know that I think are sociopaths, based on what I know to be a sociopath to be, as not a psychology, don't have a psychology degree. No one introduced me to someone and said, and this is a diagnosed sociopath. But my understanding of sociopathic behavior didn't look like her description, right? That was the thing. Like, my mom, when her second divorce was final, did some illegal stuff out of like revenge. But there was no building up of pressure that needed to be relieved. There was a reason. But the outcome of her behavior was definitely with disregard to someone else's property. This is the second divorce. We weren't even talking about the third, fourth, fifth. But the second one, there was some like clearly illegal behavior happening that she thought was really funny. And the ethics of that behavior was so upsetting to me because she damaged someone's personal property that was a longtime family personal property. And to me, that's so terrible. You could be mad at somebody, but you don't go in and break your great grandmother's whatever. That's just that's like off limits. But to me, that's what I understood, like kind of sociopathic behavior, thinking that's funny, thinking for years how she got one over on this guy. To me, that's such bad behavior. That's so like no regard for it being illegal. But there's no building up of pressure.
Right.
Like
but
described.
Also, again, since we don't have a diagnosis for her, and maybe my takeaway from the book is that our understanding, what I believed sociopathy to be before reading this book, was not accurate. That really what we're fed is a certain subset of sociopaths.
Right.
That this is what that is, and that she explains it as a spectrum disorder, for one, which I think is fascinating. And also, as soon as she said it, it's like, well, it's not surprising because honestly, everything's a spectrum. It's not just the autism spectrum.
Totally. Learning disabilities have spectrums. Yeah, everything.
Even sexuality, like there's like a gay spectrum that some people are like, no, I am 100% hetero or 100% same sex. And then there are lots of people who are existing in some spectrum in between. Well,
my takeaway, and for whatever it's worth. So clearly, sociopath is not a diagnosis that's used anymore, right?
No.
Clinically, that is no longer a diagnosis. Does that mean it shouldn't be re-included at some point when there's a better criteria? Maybe there should be. But there's a reason that it was gotten rid of, right? So for her to like identify as that and not the more clinically accurate diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder, which in my brain, she fits every single criteria for, is just interesting. So I kept reminding myself, this is one person's perspective. This is a memoir of her life and her perspective. And there's obviously a lot of comorbidity with a bunch of other diagnoses. Like the building up of pressure is very compulsive and OCD-like, right? She also has massive anxiety. So it's hard to know where all of these like coexist, and you really need to have a clinician, a diagnostician who can really pull out all of those things and see what her actual diagnosis is. And in general, you can't really do that to yourself, right?
Right.
So I know she clearly is working with a therapist who does seem to agree, at least according to her in this book, that she is a sociopath. So maybe it's interesting. It's just really, really fascinating. Her perception of herself and her need. It feels like to me her need to justify her calling herself a sociopath based on old criteria as opposed to anything else at the moment.
Wife the Party is sponsored by Shopify. When you think about companies with healthy sales like Chubby's or Magic Spoon, sure, you think about a great product, an attractive brand, and marketing that lifts a heavy load. But an often overlooked secret is actually the business behind the business making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not so secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. And I know I've said this before, but I really do mean it. Shopify makes the back end of business so easy for me because I am not super savvy on a computer or on a website. But I can go on Shopify.com and I can see my sales, I can see my inventory, I can track how my business is doing. It's such a user-friendly platform. It makes being a business owner easier. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/wife, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/wife to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/wife. Wife of the Party is sponsored by DraftKings. Ever want to bet on sports and wondered how do you get started? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, are making it easier than ever. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, select a sport like NFL, select an option like TD Scores, pick who you think will score, and place your bet. This is one of my favorite ways to use DraftKings Sportsbook because we have a fantasy football league at Birdie Boy Productions. So I love placing a bet on who I think is going to score a touchdown on my fantasy football league. So it's a great way to add one more layer to that fantasy football league you're in. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code LeeAnn. That's code LeeAnn for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. I know. I liked how she was talking about how she was asking the question when you put it out. See, I don't know enough about mental health to be able to dispute what she laid out. Mm-hmm. Like you have a degree, multiple degrees in the mental health field. So for you, it's a very different experience of reading this book than for me. I'm psychology curious. I'm not educated. So when she was talking about, might this be something you can sort of rehabilitate's the wrong word, but rehabilitate, right? Like someone with a learning disability can learn tools to help with their learning disability. You won't get rid of your learning disability, but you can help it. And someone with an anxiety disorder can learn tools to help with their anxiety. Someone, the OCD can learn tools. That why can't a sociopath learn tools? Mm-hmm. But when you break it down the way you just did, where is it OCD? Is it anxiety disorder? Is it antisocial personality disorder? Tools would work for those, right? Mm-hmm. So that might make her symptoms calm down. Was stealing a car for her was something that relieved pressure, that bad behavior, right? What diagnosis would that fall under? Like if you were going to say, if I compulsively, I have pressure build up and to relieve the pressure, I have to do something bad. So instead of choking a cat, I steal a car. What would you say that is?
I mean, it depends. It could be a compulsive thing. It could also be antisocial, right? She has complete disregard for the law and disregard for someone else's personal property, doesn't have a fear of consequences. You know what I mean? So
yeah. So for her, it was tied to sociopathy because it was the apathy. Yes. The apathy was creating that pressure that she wanted to feel something. I think that one of my favorite parts about the book is when she describes how a sociopath it's not that they don't have feelings, that a psychopath doesn't have feelings, but a sociopath has feelings. She described it as having access only to, if feelings were crayons, she only had access to the primary colors. And she feels like everyone else has the, 64 crayon box, and she's just left with these 3 that anger, or I don't even remember what her feelings were, but then that relief of pressure. So doing something bad that's a feeling that she has access to, of like maybe the exhilaration maybe was one of the feelings. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't remember her talking about that one specifically, but and the apathy, like that is a classic sign of depression too. So like how, like, you know what I mean? Like
apathy's a sign of depression? I didn't know
often. It can be, yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. It was fascinating. Like her understanding of herself. I mean, she's clearly done a ton of work. It was really interesting.
She really wanted to not, I felt like she really wanted to not have those behaviors and didn't have another solution at a certain point in her life. Maybe not always, but at a certain point, I think she didn't really want to be stealing cars, but didn't have another solution. And so just kept stealing cars, and then just would lean into that because she didn't have any other tools. So they were maladaptive behaviors, right?
Yeah. And then she had the anxiety from knowing that she was different from other people and wanting to feel a different way, which is just like any neurodivergence. Like the anxiety usually comes with neurodivergence in general, just of that feeling of not fitting in, or not
that part was tricky for me. Like,
what do you mean?
Because she knew she was different and she wanted to fit in, but then she talks about this apathy where she doesn't care. And it's like, I don't understand what, like, and obviously people are conflicted, right? Like there's no reason that she can't feel both of those things.
Sure.
But it was really, I kept going, I don't what you're saying 2 very different things, and I don't know which one is prevalent, or
when she
maybe
comes
they go
to
back and forth. I'm not sure.
When she comes to accept the apathy later on, I think for me the best explanation of it is she talked about for years feeling bad about the apathy, and then realizing people spend a lot of money doing yoga and going to meditation retreats to get to a feeling of neutral, to be non-reactive in that way. And that I was like, oh, that's interesting, because in some ways that's apathy, of just, not becoming attached to emotions, not becoming attached to the future or the past, and just mindfulness in some ways is a form of apathy. And I thought that was a really interesting, that helped me like click into her head a little bit more and go, oh, I can see how that would be a positive thing.
Right. She doesn't have the stress or anxiety in certain areas that regular people do.
Yeah.
And regular is a wrong term, but you know what I mean. Non-neurodivergent people don't have those nooks and crannies. And her nooks and crannies looked a bit different. So funny, Cathy. I didn't expect you to have such a strong reaction to it, but I guess I should.
I mean, yeah, it was like I listened to that book, within 2 days.
Yeah.
Like I could not stop listening to it.
And it wasn't short.
So
either.
It was not short. It was,
It was fascinating.
Yeah. Very fascinating.
I was fascinated by her. What a good guy she found in that freaking summer camp or whatever.
Yeah.
No kidding.
David.
Yeah.
David, yeah. Wow. I knew they were going to end up together, even when they broke up. I was like, they're totally going to be together. There's nobody else.
Like when you knew going in that she was married, and you're like, oh yeah, he's the dude.
He's the one.
Yeah.
He just got her from the beginning.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, loved her unconditionally. It was really cool. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting to see how I liked actually that I could relate to going to a psychology class in college and going, wait, I resonate with this piece. Let me dig in here. Because that's what I did. I went to psychology class and went, hold on, there's a lot here I could learn, right? And she did the same thing. So I obviously am not an obsessive person. She seemed to be quite obsessive about it. But that was cool. I thought that was cool that that's kind of where she started trying to turn some stuff around a bit for her. And imagine how hard it would be to be her parents, to have this child who keeps doing these behaviors. And she doesn't have a bad, tragic childhood. I think it is interesting to see someone who has that kind of struggle who doesn't have trauma. And we always think.
Except for maybe the ferret.
The ferret.
Yeah, I remember when her ferret died and her mom was like, sent her to school and let her sister mourn and not her. That was pretty traumatic.
Yeah. She
But
kept her
like,
sister home
but
from
then
school.
again, like her mom had to have been at her wit's end. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like clearly it was the wrong parenting move. But at some point you got to go like, what was that poor woman going to do?
Yeah.
You know, she had clearly no understanding. No one has an understanding of what was going on in this woman's brain.
No.
Particularly not way back then, you
Right.
know? So,
But is that enough? That's not, she already had bad behavior before that.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
absolutely.
nothing happened
Yes.
to her to
No,
make
that's
her
true.
have
Correct.
this. This is how she was wired.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so then you go, well, we all think that all these damaged people are these sociopaths are damaged people. Well, maybe not. Maybe they're just miswired or wired differently than the rest of us.
What I thought about that was that to me, it's like, oh, so her great outcome being a sociopath and then going on to have a successful marriage and children and to be a successful academic and all of that, you know, if she had had trauma on top of that, then maybe that's where the serial killers come from. That if you're wired this way plus trauma equals, because some people have horrible trauma and don't grow up to do bad things.
Of course.
So it's like those, you know, maybe those two pieces together. Or
It saved us from a Patric Dahmer.
Jeffrey Dahmer, yeah.
No, she's Patrick.
Oh,
She would have been Patrick Dahmer. I don't know. I couldn't put the book down.
Yeah.
I needed to see.
It's definitely
Where
a
she
good
went.
read.
It was a good read,
Yeah.
right? It's a really interesting
Yeah.
read.
And she does write it really well.
Yeah, very good writer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I read the New York Times review of this book and it made me so angry.
Why? Tell me.
Because so the reviewer starts out by saying, "Ugh, I just wanted to throw it across the room. You mean to tell me she remembers conversations that happened when she was a child, blah, blah, blah." And I just wanted to go, have you never read a memoir before? Like honestly, at the beginning of the book, it says some, there's always a little disclaimer saying maybe some names have been changed for people's privacy. And of course, nobody remembers every single freaking word of but you remember moments or you remember the emotional truth of that scene, of that conversation. And that's what she wrote. And then she said, oh, like everybody talked in witty one-liners and everybody was so funny and sharp and people don't talk like that in real life. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She was in Hollywood. She was in the music industry.
Right.
Like, I'm like, yeah, people talk like that. So what are you talking? It felt like a very mean-spirited review to me.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Did she talk
And
about
then-
the content at all?
I mean, very little. A lot of it was just stuff like that. A spit take. A spit take has never really happened in real life.
Oh, please.
And I'm like, give me a break. It's happened to everybody.
Oh, please. You haven't hung out with our family.
Yeah.
We have spit takes
Right.
often.
Exactly. And it was so mean-spirited. And then I read the comment section. I know, never read the comment section, but people were so nasty. And these were people who didn't show any signs of having read the book. And they were just so triggered by her, sociopath in Sharpie across the title. It's like, okay, well, maybe some curiosity about, well, what does that actually mean? She didn't write, it's not called serial killer.
Right.
If it was called serial killer, and then you're like, great, a serial killer was allowed to write a memoir and got money for this. Okay, maybe that's going to piss me off.
True
Do you know what I
crime.
mean?
I mean, do you know how much money that business
Totally.
makes? So, like, I don't understand why that would be offensive.
People were
because
almost unanimously, there were so many comments and people were just irate about
That's crazy.
her. How dare she claim this title and, oh, she's proud of it or whatever. And it was like, okay, you haven't read the book. So, I
What a
thought,
bummer for her.
yeah. I think the curiosity piece was really integral to just keep coming back to, oh, this is curious behavior. And this is how she's explaining what's happening in her mind as she's doing some of these illegal or behaviors.
Immoral.
Or unethical.
Yeah.
Unethical. I thought it was very brave. I thought it was very bravely written.
Yes.
She put a lot out there.
She put a lot out there, and to be open, to your point, to be open to a lot of criticism from professionals, from people who are educated in this field, to open yourself and say, this is my experience of my life. And as I understand the world of mental health, this is how this applies to my life. So publicly is very, very brave. It might, on the other hand, might be a disservice, to your point, to someone else who has similar feelings and now misdiagnoses themselves or their family member based on her experience in her memoir. It's not obviously a medical journal or a medical book. It was just a woman's experience of her journey through mental health. But I thought it was really brave and well done. And
I wonder if it's a pseudonym, you think?
What is a pseudonym?
Yes. I think we talked about this last time, that it's
not her
something-
actual name.
It's not
No, it's not her actual name.
I didn't think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think as a psychopath and a sociopath, then she can disconnect from the negative comments because it's a pseudonym?
Well, she did talk about not having shame. That was one of, because anytime I read something about any sort of like mental health disorder or diagnosis or whatever, I'll immediately go into, I wonder if I have that. And start, and then I was like, no, I am completely reactive and filled with shame and guilt at all times. So no,
I would never choke a cat. I would never steal a car. I don't have pressure building up.
Yes,
Okay,
I've
I'm
never
good.
done anything illegal in my life. So no, it's conclusive. But
That's funny.
I liked her. I actually really liked her. I thought she was she's she's just authentically herself, and there was no bullshit. So I really liked her.
Well, the lack of filter was something that I appreciated her being honest about, right? So it seemed to me like she presented herself with very little filter. And that's probably, you don't always look great when you don't have a filter. Sometimes you're an asshole, and sometimes you're insensitive and when you don't have a filter like that. And so I thought it was really cool that she presented it kind of probably as it is or close to how it was to be with her, to be in a relationship with her, someone with no filter. Who do you think the rock star was?
Oh, I'm
I
dying
was so
to know.
curious, right?
Dying to know.
Me too.
And also dying to know if it was indeed the music industry or if it was
acting.
actually acting.
Me
Got
too.
it.
Yeah, if she disguised the entire industry. I'm fascinated.
Yeah, I was too. I was like,
Interesting.
who is that guy? Who
Yeah.
could it be?
I took that at face value. I didn't even think about that really.
About that being
That it could be like
pseudonym also?
not that way.
It could be a pseudonym also, the industry?
Yes. Yeah, I didn't really think. I just assumed the industry was authentic, but that's interesting. It might not be.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised if she didn't change it
Yeah.
entirely. And if she even didn't go to UCLA. What? Now it's really a fiction, all of it. I was dying to know who the rock star was
Yeah.
that fell in love with her or in love.
Yeah.
Enamored?
I mean, clearly he was not super mentally healthy either.
No.
So, yeah.
No. Would you recommend the book?
I definitely
Oh, yeah,
recommend the book.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a fun read and it's relatively quick. Like, it is something you can't put down. So you could easily read it in a weekend.
I recommend it too.
Yeah, very well written.
It was very
Yeah.
well written. Yeah. Very, very well written.
Yeah. I started listening to Armchair Expert when she was a guest on it.
Oh, yeah.
I was trying to be my super nerdy self and come in with some research, and then my family interrupted me, and so I didn't listen to much at all. But I'm very, very curious about her now. I'm fascinated with her.
I'd love to see what she looks like when you're having conversation with her. Like
Yeah.
what her eyes, what her connection, what her nonverbal cues are when you have a conversation with her, You can tell when someone is not all there. Or
when they don't care. Like you can
Yeah.
tell
When they
when
don't care,
you're
yeah.
talking to someone and you're like, they don't care about a thing that I'm saying right now.
that, and someone who just has a neurodivergent
Yeah.
piece where you're like,
You can tell there's
it's
something.
not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was curious to know what she looks like in that way. Anyway, it was a good book. I'm glad you guys read it.
Yeah, I'm glad we did.
Oh, yeah.
I was dying to
too.
talk to somebody about it. It was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, very, very fascinating. It really made me think. Just again, what we already talked about, the piece about there being a spectrum to all things. I wonder if there's a spectrum to psychopathy as well. Like
I bet there is.
surely
It's gotta
not
be. Yeah.
the only
Yeah,
people.
because no two people are the same,
Yeah.
right? So no diagnosis, whether you and you
Yes.
carry the same diagnosis, it's not going to present the
Yes.
same, and you're going to have different symptoms or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and different coping mechanisms.
Right.
Yeah, like they
So-
say, it's so often kids who are on the autism spectrum, like a teacher will be like, "Oh yeah, I've had an autistic kid
Yeah.
before," and then the saying within the community is, "Well, you know what they say: you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person.
Right.
That's it. You don't it's
Yeah.
not you've met one, met them all. Everybody's different because all individuals are different, and the same thing. So that's fascinating about this is how sociopathy presents in her, but then how does it look for other people who are, yes, we've heard about the criminal, like the truly, well, she was criminal as well, but we've heard about the dramatic cases, but then how does it present in other people who are just living their lives?
That is a good question, right? How does it present in people who just live a life? Does it look
I
like
think
a liar?
that's part of this book, right? Like for her to start the conversation, right? Take this book for what it is. It is her experience, right? But nobody's talking about their experience, right? Because we all assume, and she talks about this a lot in the book, that every news anchor drops, "Oh, it's a sociopath that was arrested today," or whatever. You know what I mean? That term is thrown around for everybody who has any bit of bad behavior. And that's not an accurate term, right? So like most things, the more that we put it out and have open conversations about it, then you can actually understand what it looks like. So
Totally.
it's pretty impressive.
And if
that
you
she
think
did
about the stuff that is in or isn't in the DSM, like in the past, wasn't homosexuality in the DSM? And I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine thinking that is a mental illness now? So just to think about not necessarily sociopathy very much sounds like a mental illness. But to just think about how, even destigmatizing, because in the past it's like, oh, so-and-so is crazy. Well, now you don't say, crazy behavior is reserved for more wild and audacious and whatever, but it's not talked about. Now we're a little bit more savvy and sensitive and thoughtful about mental health. And so, but not about sociopathy. It's oh, that guy's a sociopath. Oh, Trump is a sociopath. It just gets thrown around all the time. And so I wonder if she's starting a conversation about changing that. I wonder if that will ever change.
Yeah, I don't know.
And if it is a spectrum, like she says, that would, as she was talking about some of her behaviors, I was trying to think about, all the kids we've known growing up. There's autistic kids, there's lots of kids with learning disabilities, there's lots of kids with things that I can't identify that definitely aren't, typical behaviors. And you start thinking, I wonder if this is what this person is struggling with, if it's something similar to what she's describing, a building up of pressure and a need to release pressure, and whatever the label is for it. If, as she said, there are tools that you can use that can make that easier for that person to live their life, wouldn't that be great if this book had some mom or dad read this book and went, "Oh, my kid is struggling with these things. Let's go see someone to get some tools." Because I think that's, to me, how she presented sociopathy, is that it was a hopeless case in the world of mental health. If you were a sociopath, you're fucked. There's nowhere for you to go.
Yeah, you're
And
just
there's
going to
no
end
help
up in prison.
Except to jail.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
But her presentation was, but maybe not. Maybe there are other options if you really do have these types of bad behaviors, why can't we, why can't we have some adaptive tools that can help you figure out how to relieve the pressure? And
yeah, I thought it was also interesting when she talked about like the work colleague, the work friend who was just a bad person basically, but it was like, oh yeah, I'm a sociopath too. And she called her a sociopath.
A sociopath, yes.
But like she definitely brings up that, yeah, lots of people have bad behavior and it's not necessarily a diagnosable condition. They're just bad.
They're just an asshole.
And there were a lot of people in
that person was
music
just an asshole.
Yes, it's true. Some people just are jerks. I think this is a great way to segue into our next book club book. I am so excited to read this next book club book. It's called Bad Therapy. I can't remember the author, but that is something that's interesting. I think I look for a label or an answer to something.
Well, and the culture does too. The culture does, because you go on Instagram and every Instagram meme, people are self-diagnosing with whatever mental health condition. And it's like, no, okay, maybe you're just having a bad day.
Yes. Or maybe you need to organize yourself. Maybe you're not really ADHD. Tons of people really are, but maybe you're just disorganized. And if you just kept yourself organized and made it a quote chore, a lot of these problems might go away. Not for everybody, of course, but I think we're quick to diagnose, quick to get an answer. And I'm guilty of it too. But for me in my journey of mental health, if I can kind of identify something, then I can focus on it and get rid of it, But I think what happens sometimes is people identify something and then they hitch their wagon up to that and keep it there. That's not the purpose of therapy or mental health.
Or having a diagnosis. Having a diagnosis isn't about just
being that diagnosis.
An identity piece.
Exactly.
It's like tools. It's like to access tools that'll help you move beyond whatever struggle you have.
To add things.
Well, it's also one piece of you.
Yeah.
Right? There are lots of pieces to a person. So your diagnosis really is just one. It's not your sole identifying component.
I have not read Bad Therapy, but I think Bad Therapy by Abigail Shrier. Thank you. But I think that might be where she's going with it, right? Because she's a therapist. So clearly she believes in helping people in the mental health field. But I have a feeling that's where she's going. Some people might just be assholes, Some kids just might need time out. Some kids might need a tutor who keeps them on track. And after a little bit of time, which is rehabilitation, they're fine. But we're so quick. I mean, I love Isla's therapist. She's been really helpful. When we were having struggles with her sleep anxiety stuff, where she was having a really hard time sleeping and went on for a long, long time. We went to see a therapist, not your therapist, a new one. She said, well, maybe we would talk about medication. And I said, maybe we talk about something else first. I'm all for medication if we've tried everything else first. But I'd much rather, and this is for my kid and my kid's experience. Some kids just need it. But my kid, I was like, what can we try first? And then if that doesn't work, like, is it diet? Is it a routine? Is it what? And it was getting a cat in her room. That helped mostly. Getting a cat, and part of Isla's routine is she barricades her door at night. She has a bookshelf next to her door that she slides in front of her door, and now she can sleep. Okay. Can I push that out of the way and get in her room? Yes, very easily. But that one little thing puts her at ease and she goes to sleep. Well, to me, okay, that's enough. Do we need to be medicated for it? Do we need to have a big diagnosis for it? Do we need to be this whole hoopla? Do we need to put chemicals in our body to change things? If she can make that change happen with having a cat and sliding a bookcase in front of her door, I feel like they're quick to jump to these diagnoses, and we as parents are quick to look for them, to give me that answer, because then I have a path to healing or a path to instead of.
Yeah. What that makes me think of is that I wonder sometimes if the therapists are quick to jump to that, or if they're just used to so many parents going, give me a fix for this, give me a fix for this. Because I remember
going to deal with it.
Yeah, I remember going to a teacher and talking about like my kid just can't handle this amount of homework. And they're like,
oh, I remember
I
this.
get the parents who are like, please, why are you not giving them enough homework? My kid needs, and so they're getting it from both sides.
Yeah.
And so they're just kind of like, what do you want to hear from me?
Yeah,
you
right.
know? I agree with you. Like, yeah, handle it with a bookcase before a pill.
If you can.
If you can.
And that doesn't work for everybody.
But also
some
medicine
kids
is
need it.
amazing when it's necessary.
But another great thing is that the doctor we went to first that you recommended, she literally said on the first visit, I expect maybe 5 visits. After that, you're going to go and practice the tools I give you. If you have a bump in the road, you come back. Yeah. She has no interest in keeping you in therapy.
Yeah.
She has an interest in getting you from A to B.
She is a solution-based therapist, and it's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And 2 visits with Georgia, and Georgia's never had to go back for that issue. She was like, got it. These are the tools I needed. Literally 2 visits. And Georgia practiced, like 2 weeks later went back, practiced, and I think she called her and said, I think I'm good. And you think, well, again, doesn't work for everybody. But if it worked for somebody, it can work for more than it's probably actually working for. You know what I mean? Bert's big complaint with therapy was, and this is a terrible way at looking at mental health, but I wonder if a lot of people look at it this way, and part of it makes a little sense. He's like, they have a car payment. For them to fix you is not a long-term solution for a therapist. They need patience. So if they fixed all their patients, then how are they making a car payment? And I'm like, well, I see what you mean. And it's pretty hard to get an appointment with this therapist who said 5 visits. So
yeah, it's pretty hard to get an appointment with most therapists.
So the 5 visit one definitely doesn't fit that complaint, She's not in it to make a car
had that
payment.
feeling for years, though. Feeling like, I don't know, what's in it for them? Okay. For me to have a problem, that's what's in it for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very skeptical for a long time. But yeah. Then you meet some really ethical therapists and are like, oh, no, they just want to help. And
yeah. Well, I'm interested to see what this bad therapy book has to say.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see. How about you guys? Are you interested to see too?
Yeah, I'm interested to mark it up with some Post-it notes. And
I know, I'm going to ship it to you. I'm sorry I forgot to ship
jazz.
the last one to you. It didn't even, much like our Girl Scout meeting, never entered my brain. I can't believe that I totally blew off our Girl Scout meeting. I can't believe I did that. I literally didn't think about it till this morning.
I believe it. I can't remember my name most days. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, my brain is so fried.
Why? We have less on our plate than we did 5 years ago.
I think it's hormonal. I believe that it's hormonal at this age.
I think at this point, it has to be, right? Or I'm psychotic. One or the other.
Well, is that an actual diagnosis anymore? Maybe you're antisocial social.
Feel like
I'm just
I'm
kidding.
psychotic.
I don't know what it is either. I can't remember. Can't remember.
Well,
anything.
So I also have a theory about this. I'm in my writers group has my 3 of us in it. The other 2 women are older than me. And one of them is very, very nervous about developing dementia because her mom developed dementia. And she's about 15 years older than me. So she just keeps thinking, okay, I forgot this. Is it early onset dementia? And I keep saying, but that is very normal. Like the things that she's forgetting, like she's a single woman, retired. She writes, she's a writer. She writes morning till evening every day of the week. And she was saying, this weekend, I couldn't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday. I said, that's called vacation brain, like that's retirement brain. It's very, very normal. But then the other component of it is like, you remember like when you're young and memorized every phone number and all this stuff. And like my kids will go, Mom, don't you remember? Whatever. I actually think I have a pretty good memory. But yes, there are some things that I'm starting to forget. I think it's just that there's only a certain amount of space to retain information. Like some information, the unnecessary stuff, I think it gets pruned I think the brain prunes those synapses and it's just like, yeah, you don't need that. You've got a cell phone now. You don't need to memorize any more phone numbers or whatever. I think it's normal. I think that a lot of age-related memory loss is normal and healthy. It just means that you've lived a really big life and you've met so many people that, so what if I can't remember the name of, I just remembered his name. Oh my God.
Who was it?
My brother, it was my high school theater teacher, Mr. Sauter. But my brother just reached out to me asking about this high school theater teacher and saying, was he ever inappropriate with you? And I was like, oh my God, not at all. He was such a family man. He was so into his kids, whatever. But I couldn't remember his name. And I thought, do I have dementia? What's wrong with me? Because it's somebody who directed the play, whom I also had for theater class. We went to theater competitions with, so like outside of school as well. And I was like, how can I not remember his name? But it's like, okay, also I was 17 years old when I had this teacher. Yeah, you meet a lot of people since then. And
okay, so I'm not losing my mind.
No.
I don't know. I still think
you're losing your mind about Casey.
Casey Teal. It's because I only say his full name. That's probably why. I'm like, who's Casey? I also had a cousin named Casey. Oh. So I always called him Casey Teal. Hi, Casey Teal. I think he has married and has kids now. He's very sweet. He was always very sweet. Well, he wasn't always very sweet. He was kind of a bully in high school. He used to sit behind me and like screw with my hair and make fun of me and stuff in high school. But I loved him in first grade. We held hands under the table. I used to hide it from Miss Wynn. So I didn't want to get caught. All right. Well, thank you guys for reading the book and talking about it.
I'm very glad
it was a great
you read
book.
it.
Yeah. I'm glad we did it.
Good. Me too.
I hope the next one's good too.
Me too.
I think so. It sounds like it's going to be.
I'll ship it to you today because I want to read the actual book. Also, Bad Therapy by Abigail somebody.
It starts
something
with
an S.
Shrier by Abigail Shrier.
I always feel like Halston is like Charlie.
Yeah. He is Charlie.
He is Charlie.
He's Charlie. Mm-hmm. But we should think about what we want to read after that. Do we want to read like a novel? Mm-hmm. I'm kind of
well, that's going to be like holiday time.
Yeah.
So it's got to be.
So I dipped my toe in one novel. Tell me if you've already read this novel. I haven't been able to read it much. I've read like the first chapter. And it was in the list of the books of this century, I think, that you should read, 20 books. And it was Cold Mountain. Have you read this book?
No, I haven't. No.
I started it. I think it's going to be a good book. I know they made a movie out of it, and I think it won a bunch of prizes. But think about that. We'll put that. I've been trying to. I wanted to start a fiction, and I started it and read one chapter. I haven't been able to get back to it.
Yeah.
So we'll think about that one. If anything else,
January, are we doing Atomic Habits?
What?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's
James
right.
Clear.
Yeah.
Yes, we should do Atomic Habits.
We promised
I stopped
Cathy.
reading.
But then
Yes, I stopped reading it.
Do we read it in January or do we read that in December for January for our
read
episode?
that in December for January, so we're ready with our habits.
Let's do it. Okay, so
my
we're going to
God.
read this one, Bad Therapy.
Okay.
See how long it takes us. If we can sneak a novel in between, doubt it. If we can sneak a novel in between, great. If not, well, what's that? Atomic Habits?
Atomic Habits
I think it's the
by
big
James
book.
Clear.
I think it's going to take a bit to get
I think
through.
it is.
Is it
kind of
big?
a big book.
I think so.
I own it, so I do not need that one. But I don't think Cathy has it.
No, I don't have it.
Let's see how big. Well, it's only 5 hours and 35 minutes to listen to it. So that's not bad.
Really?
Yeah, listening length, 5 hours, 35.
Is that abridged?
Not seem right.
That does not seem right.
actually.
Atomic Habits.
It's shocking.
Tiny changes, remarkable results. Atomic Habits, an easy way proven, read by the author, unabridged.
Okay.
I think you had a faulty one. I think you had one of those ones that was like.
It was definitively faulty because it like disappeared.
What was defaulty?
She was listening to this on Atomic Habits on
Spotify. I started listening to it. And yeah, I don't know. Like it was weird. Like it was terrible.
It was like an AI voice or something.
It was like, it was like, I don't know. It was awful. And then all of a sudden it just disappeared. Like I can't get it back on Spotify.
Huh.
So
maybe he removed it from Spotify somehow.
Yeah, he was like, I don't want this AI.
Maybe because there's like you can then read like, or listen to the first 7 chapters and then 7 through 14 and then 14 through whatever. Like it's broken up. And I think those work. I stopped so that we could do this book. So
Right.
But look at
I
how
don't know,
organized this book club is.
I know.
That we're reading
that's
Death
amazing.
Therapy and maybe Cold Mountain, and we're reading Atomic Habits.
we've got a list
Yes.
going.
I
That's
love
crazy.
It's like a nerd's dream.
It is. It's nerd's paradise. Well, thank you guys for how many book clubs books have we done?
God.
It's something like 50 or something.
No, it's not.
I
Is
swear.
it? You think?
We've done about 10 a year. How many
It's-
years have you been going?
It really is about 40 or 50. Pierce
Wow.
just sent me the number and I was like, what? The other day.
Wow, that's crazy. I would never have put it that high.
It's pretty high. We're
Okay.
pros, y'all.
Yeah. All right.
Professional book clubber.
Pros. I
I'm going
know.
to add that to my resume.
All right. Till next time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.